What is going on, everyone? This is Happy Hour in the Land. Welcome, welcome. This is a place that everyone can get together. We can talk Cleveland sports. We can have our own little therapy session. And with that, we do, of course, have liquid libations. And by the way, I'm the Gomer. That's the professor. Professor, what do you have in your way of liquid libations today?
Gomer, great to see you again and do another show with you, man. Not because this is the only time I have liquid libations, but it's good to see you. But I have the classic old-fashioned with Angel's Envy whiskey, right? That's a big deal. What kind of whiskey you have in this? And I may have poured a little extra in it just so we could have an extra long happy hour in the land. What about you, Gomer? What are you drinking today, my friend?
Well, I had this once before, but I liked it. So I got the Alpha Ambush from the Fatheads Brewery. Of course, they're around here in Cleveland. They have some restaurants and stuff, and I liked it. So I brought it back. Now, of course, if you're under 21, drink. You don't have to have alcoholic liquid libations, but drink responsibly. So, welcome everybody, of course, to Happy Hour in the Land. Now, to get started, though, I have to address the email that we talked about on our last show. We had a email that we talked on the air about the Cardinals Guardians series, thanks to Allie. And I said we'd be drinking champagne, and we are not drinking champagne.
The first one looked good. The first one looked good. But
I called
Allie,
that one. I said Gavin Williams was going to win. Gavin Williams, we're going to win that game.
Yes, sir, you did.
I called that one. Man, Allie was in my head. During the whole game, because we had that game won. The second game, we had it won. We should have won it. And I'm so very disappointed that we didn't. And the whole time I'm going, we're going to lose game 3. It's going to happen. We have to win this game. And what I don't understand is, so in the eighth inning that Valera hit the double, they pinch ran him. They put Brito in. Why did they put Brito in? He's not known for his defense, and was Valera that slow? I don't know. But then, of course, Brito had the error in the 9th inning that allowed the Cardinals to kind of keep going. If it wasn't for that error, the game would have been over. And of course, Cade Smith uncorks a wild pitch in the 9th inning, which I don't think really mattered. But I think that double he would have scored anyways on the next batter. But man, we had it won. But Allie, of course, hats off to your team. My liquid libation to soothe my soul from the loss right here is the ambush. So cheers.
That's right. As Cleveland, Northeast Ohio sports fans, we're used to having such a great path towards victory and then having the bottom fall out. It's what we affectionately call Cleveland style, where it gives you all the kind of hope that you can have in the world, and then at the last minute drops you to the bottom. And that's what you're talking about, where it looked like we had it won. I've seen the Tribe do it a million times with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. The Tribe's going to be down here in July. I look forward to it again. But I'll go ahead and place my bet now that the one game I go to will be the one game the Tribe loses to the Rays. And it may be something like you said. But I think the Tribe's looking good, and the Rays have their stadium roof back on. That's a great thing. And for those of you in the area, $10 tickets to the Rays games.
Wow, that's something else.
I'll drink to that. Well, it's standing room only. You know what I mean? And I think they just want to convince people that the roof is back on.
Yeah. But speaking of the mailbag, we have another email from another listener that we can talk about. This one's from YBJ, and of course, I think I'm going to break it into some different sections because we covered all the sports in this one. But this one from YBJ says, "How do you doodly boys?" I don't know if he's Ned Flanders there, but you know, I'm just kidding. Interesting time in Cleveland sports indeed. Cleveland Cavs one early playoff exit from trading away Mobley and Allen. Guards one bad season away from Jose finally asking to be traded, and the Browns fans getting Munsoned by their terrible ownership for the 17th straight season. So the first thing, since we're talking Guardians, I'll bring up what he says about the Guardians, and we can talk about that. But Guardians are always one or two players away from greatness, but seem so far away from sometimes. Can Chase the Slaughter keep it up? Who's going to be next in line to step up and get them another 88 win season?
Love it.
I love. I love the Chase to Slaughter, and I thought about that. You know what? I think I might call him Sergeant to Slaughter from now on. That might be my. I like it.
Oh, 1980s GI Joe reference for those of you at home that are too young or too old.
Or WWF. I don't discriminate. I like both references.
You're right. You're right. Sergeant Slaughter came from the wrestling world until they came to GI Joe. Nice call. Nice call, Gomes. I like it. I like it.
So yeah, that I think is ultimate. Can Chase keep it up? That's a great question. I'm starting to kind of be a believer, and when I first saw him, his swing, unorthodox, but you read more about it. I had a buddy that put Chase's swing and Kenny Lofton's swing side by side, and virtually identical. Chase, he keeps his swing short. He ends it early. He doesn't follow through, which, as a coach in the past for baseball, that was one thing I always told the players: finish your swing. Make sure you're getting all that power. But Chase doesn't need to. He has that short swing. He generates so much speed in that short time frame. He doesn't need to finish his swing, and I think that's a lot of what Kenny did. So far he hasn't been phased. He hit 5 home runs like right away. Hasn't hit any since, but he's hitting them off the wall. He's hitting doubles. So I kind of do think he'll keep it up. I do think there will be some sort of lull as all rookies go through, but I do think he'll finish strong, and I think he'll have a good season.
Boy, when you were comparing batting styles, I was first of all, love Kenny Lofton. Was my favorite player, number 7 center field. Love that he came back for the playoffs. But when you were talking about batting styles, come on, man. Who has a more unique batting style than Julio, right? Remember
Julio
that?
Franco? Mm-hmm.
Yes, Julio Franco, 1986, right? He had that crazy, and he hit the ball, Gomes. You remember, he was one of our best hitters. Remember that? Up here.
Yeah. Oh, he played into his 40s, too. He played for so many different teams. Yeah, I always loved Julio, and I loved sitting in the stadium, in the old stadium, and hearing the Julio chants. It was great. Yeah, I definitely liked him. When he was on our team for sure. Yeah, when he came back too, that was cool because he came back for a short. So I think he played in Jacobs Field for a minute.
Oh, stop! Come on now. This is my boy Kenny Lofton comes back. They bring him back at the end of the season. I mean, the end of the season, right? I mean, like the last game because we were going into the playoffs. So they brought Kenny Lofton back to Jacobs Field, right, to be in the playoffs for like one more season, and he did have some fairly good moments in that playoff. Couldn't be more happier. Kenny Lofton returned home. He was a great center fielder. Loved it. Loved the comparison. But again,
but I also like this. Who's next in line to step up and get them to another 88 win season? That was the question. And I do actually have a player that I've been watching, and it's one of those where I'm thinking about going out and buying some rookie cards because his name's been real low right now. But it shouldn't be, and it won't be for much longer. There's the guy that's pitching
so we should
tonight.
all get our pens out.
The guy that's pitching tonight against Baltimore, Parker Messick. The dude has been unstoppable. I think he threw 6 innings against the Dodgers and shut him out. I think he's only had one start, and I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but I think he's only had one start where he's really allowed any sort of really runs. He's had a great season so far. He's been very, very crisp and clean. This is a guy that I'm expecting to kind of step up and help us out in the future, especially when players like Tanner Bybee haven't really made their mark yet in this season. Parker Messick, the name that you haven't really heard, came out of nowhere. I think he barely made the club, but I think he's here to stay.
Very cool. And you think it'll get us over, but pitching has always kind of been our strength, right? What about bats, man? And it seems like we can't pay. Let's just be honest. We can't pay for the bats, so we got to homegrown the bats. Can we homegrown the bats like we do the pitchers? You've known our team. You've seen how they invest in the AAA system, and they're one of the best in the MLB. But it seems like it's clear that we do better with pitchers. Is it why can't we do it with the pitchers and batters?
It's a great question, and this has been one of my things for years. And I think I believe they got a new hitting like coach or coaching tree this year, which I think they needed. I really do, because I'm not saying anything bad about our previous hitting coaches, but you're right. Like I do think Carl Willis for our pitching staff has had such a major impact on our pitching staff for the last few years, and I was so worried that he was going to retire, and he probably will after this year. But the one thing I do want to point out, and I heard this on another podcast, and I apologize, I wasn't planning on talking about it. I don't have it written down who I heard it from, but Angel Martinez. Last year, he hit 2 hits over 105 miles per hour, and his top exit velocity, the top exit velocity he had was 107 miles per hour. Well, this year, he already has 5, and his top exit velocity is 110 miles per hour. So obviously, they're just metrically wise. If you're hitting a ball that hard, if you're harder and harder you hit, the ball is going to drop. Something's going to give at some point. And so I think for Angel, when you see him kind of make that leap from year to year, that's good things to be had. That's good things to watch out for. So keep an eye on that. If he's still knocking the ball around, I think last night he had a line drive to first base. It was caught. Sometimes that happens. But keep an eye on him and keep an eye on his progress too. Of course, like Brito's known for his bat. Like I said, he's not really known for his defense, so that's why I was surprised they put him in late inning defensive replacement there at the end of the game against the Cardinals. Bazana might be coming up. He's struggling right now in AAA. He's only hitting in the low 200s. So hopefully we can see him turn around AAA. I'd like to see him turn around AAA before he gets up here. I'd like for him to get hot, then come up here, and not force that. Hey, we got to get him up here. Don't force it. Let him get hot. Bring up Bazana a little bit later.
No,
that's one.
I love it. I love it because you're saying let's not rush it. Have these guys build confidence in the minors when he's ready. Come up when he's hot. Nothing like bringing them up when they're still a little up and down and hoping that they'll work it out in the majors. I think that's a great idea. Great idea.
Yeah, Valero was hot before we brought him up. He was smoking in the ball in AAA, so I think on his rehab assignment. But I'm glad to see him up here, and hopefully he can do some good things tonight. Hopefully we'll take it to the Orioles, who I think are still kind of finding their footing. So hopefully we can take them down. We lost the last 2 series. They're both on the road against 2 teams that are tough. I know St. Louis hasn't been, but I think Atlanta's projected to win the World Series this year. So we've lost 2 series in a row against really tough teams. Hopefully we can kind of get put our feet back on the ground against Baltimore tonight. That's what I'm hoping for. Now let's switch it up again. Going back to the email, talking about YBJ's email, talking about the Cavs. He says the Cavs seem renewed with Harden, but the East is as tough as ever the last few seasons. Back and forth reports about whether LeBron wants to come back or not. Why would anyone say no? The greatest ever, hanging it up. Again, no reason not to bring him back if the money works. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I agree. It's a nice, completes the story arc where he comes, small kid from Akron, right? And leaves for Miami, wins some championship. You guys know all the story. But it would be a nice wrap it up bow. I think no matter what, to be honest with you, even if it's well past his prime, he'll finish the season and then start another season to end with the Cavs. I think that would be the smart thing to do. He's already going to be known as Miami Heat and Lakers and Cavs. So to me, it makes a lot of sense. I think that it does, even if he's in a wheelchair, right? Have him do the 1-day contract, right? That we see all the time where he retires a Cav. I think that would be smart. He's made plenty of money. He's obviously played with the Sun, which was one of his big goals to do. And you got to have goals, right? When you have that kind of money, you got to come up with new and better style goals. So makes sense to me. I would prefer to see it. I think that wraps up his story, right? Completely. But that's my 2 cents. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he said, why would anyone say no? I mean, I do think there are some reasons. I do think LeBron coming back is, like you said, completing the story. kind of wrapping it up, I think he does come back for one more year and has a goodbye tour, where they stop at every city and then they give him gifts essentially. I do think that's gonna happen. Where it's gonna be, I don't know. Like he just said recently he doesn't like coming home, so that's up in the air. But when it comes to like a marketing, I think that it's brilliant if it's like marketing. You need to sell tickets to have that kind of, and I think it's just a great thing to put on tape, right? It's just for the future to have that for your organization. I think all of that is great. When it comes to the actual basketball play, it worries me, especially we don't know what Harden's doing, if he's sticking around. If he is sticking around, well, him and LeBron mesh. The thing that worries me is when LeBron was here last, they were, he was kind of playing a mini GM, or at least telling the GM about the players he wants. And then when he left, we weren't set up for the future at all. And so, we have Donovan Mitchell now, who's great. I don't know. I guess I said it once before about messing with the chemistry, and they did, and they brought in Harden, and things have been great. So I don't know. I do think it'd be great to see him back here one more time. I personally would rather have the 1-day contract situation where he just comes back. But again, if you want that publicity, you want that tape, having him kind of go through his farewell tour, I think that's what they want to do. Okay, that's good. Eddie Murray had a great career, and played with the Orioles, Dodgers. He played with a bunch of teams. Came and got his 3,000th hit here. So I think that was a huge deal, and to have that kind of the signage, how many hits he has and stuff like that, I think it was really cool that he came here and did that with us. So it might be something good to put on tape. He's going to score his final buckets as a Cav. He's the all-time point leader. That might be cool. I don't know.
Oh, but I hear what you're saying. You're saying it's basically ego, right? Is LeBron going to be old enough and mature enough to let his ego aside and say, listen, the days of you being a GM are over? No disrespect. We gave you all the love in the world, especially after what happened. But that's what I hear you saying, Gome, is that bring him back with a clear understanding that we are just wrapping up the story. Right, we are not trying to win another championship. You mentioned his skills. My God, he's been playing for how long? You know what I mean? That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about him getting one more championship before he's out. We're talking about finishing the story. And I hear you saying the 1-day contract. I also hear you saying maybe a couple of days. Why not the last week? You know what I mean? Before the trade deadline, have him do a couple games back in Cleveland, just to finish the arc. But I couldn't agree with you more. Don't be thinking that it's before where you could make all these changes. And I agree. When he left last time, and again, that was the contract, or that was the agreement that they made, right? They were going to be all in as much as possible. And if he left, it was going to take a couple of years, and boy, did it. So I think it's a good idea. But if he is going to do that, he needs to stop saying things like, shit, I don't even like to go home.
Yeah,
why not?
Exactly.
Why not? What's wrong with Northeast Ohio? I love going back to Northeast Ohio. I love the people of Northeast Ohio. Maybe you're a little too much LA, LeBron. Remember that. Remember where you come from. Never forget where you're from, man. You are from Northeast. You are from Akron, brother. You know what I mean? You are from Akron, not LA. Why not come home? Why not seal the deal? Finish the story here at home. I love it.
Yeah, and like you mentioned how he says he doesn't like come home to Cleveland. He also said he doesn't want to go to Memphis or Milwaukee on a random Tuesday or Wednesday evening. Yep. Again, those comments, maybe hang it up after this year. If you don't want to do that, that's part of the NBA grind. So maybe just if you want to stay at home, if you want to stay in LA, stay there. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully he can put his ego aside if he comes back to Cleveland and play and just teach his young kids. And I mean, that would be great if he kind of get that mind here to kind of teach some of these younger kids. I think that'd be great. That'd be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
But talking about the Cavs,
check the ego at the door.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry,
absolutely.
Please go ahead. Go ahead, bud.
No, just to talk about the Cavs. They made the playoffs. They somehow squeaked it out. I thought they were going to play the Hawks. They didn't play the Hawks. The Hawks, I think, moved down. The Raptors moved up. Or they tied, so I think the Raptors won the tiebreaker. But So now we have a series against the Raptors coming up starting Sunday, I believe. So this is going to be great. Going through the season, I guess we're 0-3 against the Toronto Raptors this year, but all 3 games were early in the season. We didn't have Harden yet, so they haven't seen our current team. So I, hope he's. They're right. We talk about the Cavs. Hopefully they don't lose the first round. I don't think they will. The East is loaded because if we win, we play the Pistons. That's what scares me. I hope they can, at least if they win round 1, make it to round 2, make it tough for the Pistons at the very least. And then hopefully, that'd be great if we could take down the Pistons. I always love when that happens. And then we'll see from there. But right now, obviously, worried about the Toronto Raptors.
Real quick, I couldn't agree with you more. You know what? At least do a good fight against the Pistons. I couldn't agree with you more. But I'm an optimistic. So, yes, it's not going to be easy to get through Toronto. If we get through Toronto, I think we will. I'll tell you what, show me a good fight against Detroit if you're going to lose. But obviously, I prefer them to win. Sorry, keep going.
No, the biggest thing was which Harden was going to show up. Hopefully it's going to be a different one that showed up in the playoffs this last few years, or his career, I guess. Hopefully he shows up and kind of can start proving some doubters wrong. If he shows up, all bets out the window. Doesn't matter. We can take the Pistons down if he shows up. But which one will show up? That's the question.
Yeah,
that's the question. We'll keep an eye on after during this first round. We'll keep an eye on that one during the Raptors series coming up. So that's going to be exciting to see.
Real quick, at the end of the day, man, how far you got house money and you're in Vegas, how far are the Cavs going to go?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about it too much. I haven't looked past the Pistons because I think that's extremely tough to do. The Pistons have had a great year. So I think that's tough. And I'm not saying they're going to lose the Pistons. I just haven't looked past them yet. But you know what? I do feel like this is a great team. This is a championship team. With Harden and Donovan Mitchell, I really hope that they can make it at least to the finals this year, if not the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think at some point, Donovan Mitchell's gonna break through. He's a great ball player.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's this year or not. But the time it's coming. It's coming. I just don't know when it is. Is it this year? Hey, if we beat the Pistons, I'll put my money in for them to make it to the finals for sure. But again, it's hard for me to look past the Pistons. They've had such a great year.
Fair enough. Again, we were just talking about it. Just give me a good, tough fight. But I hear what you're saying. Now, if we get through there, hey, if we can get through Detroit, we can get through anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they have the talent, right? I mean, they're there. They have the talent to be the best team in the league. Sometimes their defense doesn't show up. Sometimes, again, if Harden shows up or not, that's the key. That's the key. If Harden shows up. If he shows up, if he's the player he can be, if he's the player he's supposed to be, we got a shot. Then we got a shot. And if you're telling me there's a chance, let's go to California on Samsonite. Slappy. Yeah, if Drake shows up to any of the games, I think we got it sealed because Drake's the curse. Drake will curse the Raptors, and I'm sure he'll show up and curse the Raptors.
Cavs have a shot. That's what I'm hearing you say. Tribe, we agree, right? It's you gotta build them from within. I'm happy that we build up good pitchers. You know what I mean? I think maybe you get more trade value, right, for a pitcher than a batter. But man, come on, man. How long has it been since you've seen a real, from the farm system come up being a top, 10 batter in the league?
Who was the last one?
From the Tribe.
Lindor, of course. He would probably be the last one. And Hosey.
How good was Lindor, and how big was the check that he could accept after the year in Cleveland? That's my point, bro.
Yeah, exactly. So if we get a bunch of these role players, we might be all right. We got Hosey to lead us Chase, emerging all-star. Quan hasn't shown up yet this year. He's had some hits here and there where that mattered, but he hasn't been hitting like he has in the past. So we need Quan to show up. At least, if anything, get more trade capital at the trade deadline.
Yes. Maybe he's doing this. I don't really want to make more money at somewhere else. I want to be in Cleveland. Jose is right. Yes. So do I. Quan, stay. Quan, stay. Hashtag keep the Quan.
Oh, I love it.
Anything else about the Cavs or the Tribe?
No.
Before we take our break, and then there is the NFL draft coming in, less than a week. So I figure we're going to talk about that. So just trying to ask you, Bud, anything else besides this amazing picture of the Jake behind me?
Well, of course, like you said, we got to talk about the drafts coming up next week. I plugged it last week about my mock draft that I have. So I did a mock draft of my own. And then we're gonna place it against, Kuiper and Todd McShay and to see how I do. But I do have my own mock draft out here. We'll talk about that when we come back. We'll talk about the Browns, what they're gonna do, and anything else Browns coming up here on Happy Hour in the Land. I'm Gomer. That's the Professor. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Happy Hour in the Land. I'm Gomer. That's the Professor. This here is a place where all Northeast Ohio sports fans can kind of come. We can collaborate. We can have our own group little therapy session to make us all feel better with our liquid libations. Cheers, Professor.
Ooh. Cheers to you, Gomer. And by the way, I didn't get to ask you about your shirt. Looks like you got some, was that Akron Arrows?
Mm-hmm. No, not Akron Arrows, Akron Rubber Ducks.
Rubber Ducks. Sorry, different era. Where was I? Again, I love that you do the local ones. I love the Akron Ducks. Maybe one day we'll get you in front of a bunch of Rubber Ducks to celebrate.
Which is funny because there are a bunch of Rubber Ducks out and about right now because they're having the Rubber Duck Dash, which I think goes down the Cuyahoga River. I apologize if I got that wrong. But they have a duck race coming up. And I think the Rubber Ducks are one of the sponsors, but they do have a bunch of Rubber Ducks kind of all over the Akron area right now that you can get your picture taken in front of and stuff. And they had one at the ballpark last time I was there, which I will be at the ballpark tomorrow. So if anyone wants to say hi, you can wave at me. I'll be there.
Excellent. Now, Gomer, are we going to do a special on-the-spot recording of you at the Rubber Ducks tomorrow?
And if you want to reach out to the land, happyhourintheland@gmail.com. We've been reading emails from listeners and talking about them, discussing. I think Allie's now blackballed from the show. Is that right? Did we blackball her? I can't remember. No.
Just because she won 2 out of 3 games, we could put her on notice. But no, actually, she was right. She knew exactly what was coming up. We always have trouble with the Cardinals. Cardinals are always a good team. I know it's not back in the day, Tony La Russa and all that kind of stuff, but it was a good game, and the middle one, like my friend Gomer said, should have had it, but that Cleveland style. I am excited about baseball season, as you know. Even mentioned $10 tickets, but we have one of the biggest sports events coming up. I can't believe it has turned into this. The NFL draft has become one of the biggest sports events of the year. And as you and any of the viewers from Northeast Ohio know, the best time to be a Browns fan is in April, right? Is in the draft. It was in April. It was in one single draft where we got Myles Garrett and I was going to say Denzel Ward, but that's not true. That was the Baker Mayfield Denzel Ward draft. Myles Garrett was Peppers and the Chief, who we had to unfortunately say goodbye to. Much love for you, Chief. Right. But this year we've got 2 first-rounders. Everybody knows that 27 is supposed to be big for quarterbacks. And it's so big, Gome, that a lot of people are not predicting any trades. Although we could talk about it a little bit later if you want. There's maybe one that's surfacing out there that maybe somebody on this show predicted a while ago.
Hey, we'll see. It's coming up. Now, the first question I have to ask you about the draft, though. I'm sure you've watched the draft in your special, especially day one, right? The first round. This year is in Pittsburgh. It's right down the road from where we're at. Would you go to an NFL draft and watch the first round?
Absolutely. And here's how I know that. Many years ago, right, I was flying from Florida back up to Ohio, and a lot of times you get rerouted. And I'll never forget, the Browns were playing Pittsburgh. And, hey, man, I wore my jersey. I was at the bar, and I was doing my thing. And not overly rude for those of you worried at home, but it was memorable because I had a young father come up to me, right, politely, and said that he had just helped escort his 8-year-old son onto a flight. He actually came back and said, wanted to thank me for representing the Browns so much in a Pittsburgh airport. Yes, I was surrounded by black and gold. But man, when you're prideful of your team, absolutely. So I would have no problem going to the draft, fully decked out Cleveland Browns in Pittsburgh, saying, this is how we start to dominate you guys like we did in the 80s. Bring it on. Pittsburgh's got quarterback problems. Do you remember the last time they had quarterback problems going? I do. Before Ben Roethlisberger, right, there was Cordell Stewart. There was, that guy, Ryan or something like that. Went far, but wasn't the answer. You look at you like you remember, right? You remember. Oh, Maddox, see, folks, that's why we do it. That's why I do it with Gomes. He knows all this stuff. That was fun to watch Pittsburgh struggle for a quarterback. It's only ironic that while Pittsburgh drafts Ben Roethlisberger, we continue to struggle for quarterbacks. And just to put a little icing on the cake there, Ben Roethlisberger played in Ohio for college football. So the draft is a very interesting time. God knows it's been more interesting the last 10 years than playoffs have been. And we've got 2 first-round picks. Gome, I am dying to know your thoughts. One of my oldest friends from second grade, I was just telling the story, second grade, Gome, there's a big question between what the Browns need. Everybody knows we need a left tackle and we need a right tackle, but there's more to the story. And I want to know your thoughts, my friend. Give me your initial thoughts. I love that you did a draft. I'm hungry, buddy.
Well, I just bring up the draft and going to the draft because we started here in our household, started talking about it in Tennessee when they were in Tennessee because there's so many people go. And I'm sure you have to be there so many hours early to get a good spot. But like, if you don't and you're just in the back, like that's got to be terrible. It's just stand in the back and be like, number 13 for the Browns. Whatever. Just to hear that from the back.
And for the record, folks, this is I'm sorry, buddy. For the record, folks at home, this is you may not know this. Gome, when the Cavs won the championship in 2016, Gome, you got to give me the photograph. We're going to put it up. Right? He got up there. So remember the parade, folks? There was more people in that city for the parade than there's all in Northeast Ohio. My man Gome is there right at the barrier. And right? You got his whole armpit and stuff like that. How early did you get there for the Cavs championship parade in Cleveland? How early did you get there, buddy?
That's a great question. What was that? 2016, right?
16. Yep, 2016.
Yeah, my brain doesn't reach that far back. But what I do remember though is I took my son, who was very, very young at that point, and at the very minute I think it was started at noon. I want to say it started at noon, but at the minute it was supposed to start at 12 o'clock, my son looks at me and says, "I have to do a number 2." We're in the middle with 2 million people. We're in the middle of downtown Cleveland on a street. And like I said, oh, all right. So I found a porta potty outside of a building that was being rehabbed, reconstructed. So I went back, grabbed my kid, put him on my shoulder, and was running down the street to this porta potty just so my son could poop and we could get back and see the parade. When he grows up, he's going to appreciate that I told this to millions of people watching our podcast.
Absolutely. And lesson be told, right? For any of you at home looking for your $1 million idea, how about port a bucket? Right? A bucket that'll just plop down, maybe with a lid. You know what I mean? Maybe with some braces in case, some of us old guys can't hold it. But portable
or diapers.
Number 2 for Gome and his kids and your kids at home.
They do.
Gomer, I think we should only ask for 5% of the overall sales.
They do make like a little like pop-up tents for like people that tailgate and with a bucket in it. And so you just like pop it up and do your business in the middle of a parking lot somewhere. I saw that. I thought that was
all right. Enough bathroom talk, Gome. I want to know. This is not an easy question. And I'll tell you what, Gome, I bet you dollars to donuts, you and I can go even more detailed, right? Students, more details, more specifics. Gomer and I are going to show. I bet you, Gomer, you and I can come up with more specifics on why Cleveland needs to pick one way or the other. But you're killing me, man. You're killing me, dude. Real quick, just tell me, any trades? Do you have any trades in your mock draft? Just give me that before you get going. Any trades?
I didn't put it, and I wanted to stipulate that I didn't put any trades in there because it's just it's so tough to map out a trade. I know, and I know for years that Kuiper didn't. I know he has now done it, but it's so tough to map out when a trade's going to happen, what it's going to be for, where the other person is going to move to. So I did not put any of that in there. And I don't know. Should we go for like? I say I have the Browns picking this guy, but they move back and pick this guy. Do I still get credit for that, or does that have to be picked on that pick?
No, you absolutely do not get credit for that. That is what a genius GM would do, and that's what we're talking about is a possibility. Now, granted, folks, Cleveland fans, if you're not aware, if you're not already one of us, incredibly optimistic, right? Incredibly optimistic. So I believe on the most positive outlook in all of this, and that is that Andrew Berry will have another phenomenal draft. And to do so, you're going to have to do a little maneuvering, even though we have 2 first-round draft picks. So I love this question, Go. I love it, but I think this is at the heart of it is what is the best way to do it. And folks, you can go ahead and you're going to watch ESPN, you can watch CBS and all this other kind of stuff. They're going to go over every single team. But here on Happy Hour in the Land, my good friend Gomer from kindergarten and I are going to break down what the challenge is and why you should put one way over the other. And again, Gomer, you're letting me talk, man. Let's get into it, man. You didn't do any trades. Let's go. I gotta know. Take the ball, buddy.
So I just want to so if they do trade and pick the same guy that I picked, I don't get credit for it. Is that right? If they do make a trade? Okay. All right.
Right.
Well, because
you picked them earlier without a trade means that they got more for it. Right. And that they were ballsy enough to do it. Because remember, we're not the only team out there that needs a left tackle and wide receiver.
Well, the first thing I wanted to talk about was what Barry said recently when he kind of got in front of the press, and I think it's very interesting what he said. Basically, he talked about how there's all this public speculation about what they're going to pick, and it's not necessarily what they're going to do. Like he talked about something about, and again, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but something about how the public expects them to pick certain positions because that's what they need, but that isn't necessarily the case. So it makes me think that they're going to pick best available at their draft pick. So it's really hard to get a read on where they're going right now because everyone in the sports Northeast Ohio sports talk is talking about we need a tackle, we need a wide receiver, and that's what the Browns are going to pick. Maybe, and kind of Barry said, that may not necessarily be true. Now, I do ultimately think the Browns will trade, but Adam Schefter came out this last week and talked about how many teams are looking at trading down. And so that kind of makes me think they may not be able to work a deal because so many other teams are looking at trading that they may not be able to find a trade partner and be able to trade down. So I think that pick at number 6 becomes really interesting. Before I heard that from Adam Schefter, I was thinking the Browns are trading down and taking Monroe Freeling. Now I have him in my pick. I have him in my draft taking Monroe Freeling. But I do think that they might trade down and take him if they have the opportunity. But we'll see, right? We'll see what happens there. But again, so many teams looking to trade, I don't know if it's going to happen.
Okay, so I'm hearing you say that there are multiple teams willing to trade down. Go real quick. Every year. Could we not say the same thing?
Well, I heard that this year is a little bit higher, just because there's no real like I shouldn't say there's no studs at the top of the draft. I don't really mean that, but like you said, there's next year such a tough draft that they may look at securing the draft position next year. You know, they may be looking at securing draft picks for next year if they possibly can, or if there's not really a player that's really standing out, because there's been. Yeah, of course, we all know Fernando Mendoza is going to go number 1, and even then, I have heard them possibly trading down, but I don't think that's going to happen. I do think Mendoza is going number 1. After that, it's a crapshoot. I don't think anyone can have a consensus on who number 2 is, and so I think because of that, that's a reason why teams are looking to trade. That they're like, hey, there's not really somebody up here that is going to knock our lights out. I mean, that may prove us wrong in a few years, and I think that's the reason why people are looking to trade down.
No, I agree with you that multiple teams are looking to trade down. Where I was going is that I think, as a blanket statement, just to build the basement, folks, as a blanket statement, we could say that almost every year. I think almost every year we could say the number 1 is going to pick the quarterback because the most valuable position, blah, 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 blah. Nobody's disagreeing with Vegas picking Mendoza. What I hear you saying is we don't know about picks 2 through 5. Mm-hmm. Except for that there is a genuine interest in trading down. And considering the Jets, who pick at number 2, have multiple first-round draft picks this year, and I think 3 next year, the Jets become very interesting because they've got a multitude of picks. And correct me if I'm wrong, Go, but if you had the number 2 overall pick and you're not the 2025 Browns, respect for the Graham trade, number 2 pick, do you pick for need or do you pick for the best player? And at number 2, the best player is not just a good player, right? I'm talking about on the field, right? Good does this. How about this? One of the best players at their position. But I'm going to add another caveat. When you're picking in the top 2 or even the top 10, and this is my point for the Browns in 2026, you got a number 6 pick. You got to pick a dude. Not just somebody who's good. Not just somebody who deserves a second contract, right? Because Andy Reid said it just the other day, you do not want to be picking in the top 10, right? But if you are, you pick a dude. You pick a dude where you can basically guarantee that second contract. And if you will allow me real quick, buddy, to go, yes, we need a left tackle. Yes, we need a right or a wide receiver, but we need a dude. We need a dude because I'm tired of seeing Pittsburgh having a dude for 10, 15 years, Baltimore having a dude. And if we're not careful, Cincinnati will have a dude. We have Myles Garrett. Yes, we do. And Myles Garrett, first vote, Hall of Fame, never trade him. He's our guy. That guy's a orange helmet for life. And he is one of the greatest. I will go ahead and say he's one of the greatest right now on the field. You can be all that and not be a dude. Right? I mean, he's a dude in a way where he's a beast on the defensive line, right? But as far as a dude that gets everybody and is that vocal player, right? Myles is that guy who's not vocal. He shows by example, right? So all I'm saying is, go. We know we need a left tackle. We know we need a wide receiver. But don't we also need a dude? After this, Deshaun Watson, we lost 3 first-round draft picks at number 6, which we hope to never be drafted that low again for a very, very long time. We need a dude. And that's why I suggest to Browns fans and anybody watching, along with what my friend Gomer just said about the quote, it is not necessarily left tackle, wide receiver. And on that point, I suggest a dude. And so we're looking at defense. So Cleveland, you got to calm down if the Browns pick a dude at number 6 that's on defense, because the Browns, or this draft, is deep in defensive players. And our defense is good. But if we can get a dude on this defense, we could take an already strong position defense and make it even better. The challenge, of course, to all of that is how bad is the offense, specifically the offensive line, 5 guys, wide receiver, 3 to 4 guys. Or do we get a dude? Go, you're killing me, man. You're killing me, man. That's what I'm thinking, boss. Number 6, no trade. You got to show us your picks, and then we can go into another draft. I want you to tell us how you be steering the ship, because everybody knows that not every mock draft is the same. Please go. Tell us your mock draft. Tell us who the Browns picked at 6 and why, and why you think that was the best decision.
Yeah, no problem. I will. I'll unveil here. I know. I kind of already mentioned. Will be taking Monroe Freeling, I believe. But
Monroe Freeling, that's the offensive tackle from Georgia, left tackle.
So to unveil my mock draft for the 2026 NFL season, here we go. Boom.
Here we go.
So here we go. Mendoza's 1. Now I do think at number 2, Arvell Reese. Go number 2. I know Kuiper says that they're gonna go for Bailey. I don't think so. I think Reese has a higher ceiling. I think Reese is gonna go number 2. Jeremiah Love number 4. Caleb Downs at number 5. And Monroe Freeling at number 6. Like I said, I ultimately do think that if they have the possibility to trade down and get Freeling, I do think that that's a possibility. And like the professor mentioned, the Cowboys looking to trade up. I do think they want one of the cornerbacks. Mansour Delane is a possibility. I have him going at 9, but I do think that there's a possibility they trade up and get one of those guys instead, and then we can go back to 12, and then maybe still even get Freeling at that point. I do think that's a possibility, but again, it's so hard to kind of map out trades. I didn't do any here. I don't know, but the interesting things I had Carnell Tate dropping to 13. He was at one point talked about being a top 6 pick, and what the professor was just talking about, like, we need a dude. If he's there at 6, that's tough. And same thing with Mekhi Lemon, if he's available at 6. But this draft is deep on wide receivers. I think I have 1, 2, 3, at least 6 wide receivers going in the top 24 picks. It is deep. I do have the Browns at number 24 taking Casey Concepcion from the wide receiver from Texas A&M. I think he's a good fit there. So he's a possibility, but like Barry said, anything's possible. We might be just taking best available wherever we are, because that will help the team a little bit more. And they'll maybe fill in those holes a little bit later. Maybe fill in a tackle later. If they don't get Freeling at 6, what happens? I don't know. They may take Mekhi Lemon, and then maybe at 24, maybe they take I don't know, Spencer Finn. I have him going at 19. Proctor, I have him going at 17. Maui Noah going at 10. Oh, that's tough. I don't know. And then Caleb Lomu at 27. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I don't know. I can't wait to see what happens here. Again, this is just my picks. It kind of makes sense to me. I think that if the NFL followed this, I think everyone would get A's. I think, but but I don't know. We'll see. There's gonna be trades. It's gonna be messed up. But I want to put this against Kuiper, McShay, any other mock drafts out there. I want to put it against them, and to see how well I did. With these guys, that's their job. That's what they get paid to do. I'm very interested to see that happen. Anything stand out to you, Professor?
Well, I just want to love how you ended that, right? All right. The happy hour in the land is happy to go against what is considered the top: Mel Kiper, Field Yates, Todd McShay, and stuff like that. And what Gomes is saying here is, if I'm correct, right, you're saying on this draft pick, the Browns' number one need is a left tackler, and the Browns have chosen Monroe Freeling as their pick for number 6. Now, Monroe Freeling is considered one of, if not the best left tackles. Have I got you so far, my man?
Yep.
So Monroe Freeling from Georgia, what is he, like 6'7", 370 pounds, only played 1 year, absolutely phenomenal. I love that Gomer went for a left tackle. I think Monroe Freeling is absolutely one of the best. The challenge, and Gomer knows this perfectly well, that number 6 for a left tackle is not necessarily too high, but it might be a little too high for Monroe Freeling. I quote Brian Bollinger, right, who a couple of years, famous coach and lineman for the NFL for many years. Brian Bollinger said that when he takes a look at Monroe Freeling, he sees absolute stud, lots of athleticism, blah, 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 all this good stuff. Gomes, you know where he says Monroe Freeling is not so strong? And this concerns me. Strength. At that kind of size and 350, 370 pounds, no matter who gets Monroe Freeling, I think what the consensus is that because he's not going to turn 22 until July of 2026, that he may simply not be as strong. Now, this does not mean to say he's not worth a number 6 pick, right, Gomes? But what we're saying is Monroe Freeling has the best ceiling. He is the best left tackle. So, Professor, what's your problem? My problem is quoting Brian Bollinger and some other experts that say, yes, super stud, but give him time. And that's my challenge. That's not my challenge, right? That's the Cleveland Browns challenge. And to all of our fans for the Cleveland Browns, are you okay with a number 6 pick being a above average player, but does not start?
Oh, no.
At number 6, Gomes, do you believe that it is a you start at the beginning of the year position? Because I think that's where the breakdown with critical thinking and trying to break this all down begins. So that's where I start with you, my friend.
That's a tough question because I do think it's by position. I do think when a quarterback sits, when he's picked that high, I do think that can benefit the quarterback, depending on what the team needs. But when we're talking about 6 and we're talking about an offensive tackle, I do think that they have to start right away. I do think that there might be a little bit of a learning curve for some of these offensive linemen when they get here, but I do think that they're starters. Especially when you talk about offensive tackle, any other position besides quarterback, really.
Okay, so and I do not disagree with that whatsoever. You're going to pick a quarterback top 5. There ain't nothing wrong with sitting him for a little while. But any other position, and I don't know about you, but I would argue that left tackle, along with man-to-man quarterback, might be the 2 most important positions after the quarterback. And so there we are. We're at left tackle. Monroe Freeling, Georgia junior, monster, right? But only played for 1 year. He's going to be 22 in July. Versus Alabama, Caden Proctor, 370, ready to go, day 1 starter. And this isn't just me saying this, right? This is what the experts, again, according to Brian Bollinger, is one of them that says the left tackle from Alabama can start day 1, but maybe doesn't have a high ceiling as Monroe Freeling from Georgia. So, where do you go? I'm not saying I have an answer to that question, but Gomes, do you mind? I think I have a question that affects this that, if you don't mind, we can go into real quick and then come back to. And that is, at number 6, the value. Again, we need a left tackle. Monroe Freeling, Caden Proctor, neither one of them are considered value at top 10. Now, we know we need them. We know the Browns need them at top 10. But my question is that too much of a reach? And I love Monroe Freeling pick. To be honest with you, Monroe Freeling, I'm worried because he's got to sit. But I tell you, I don't care if he sits. I don't care if he sits if he's going to be a Joe Thomas, because that's what everybody's saying. If Monroe Freeling had gone back to college, he would absolutely be a top 5, maybe top 3, Joe Thomas, offensive lineman pick. But he's coming out this year, and everybody thinks that he's got everything but the size. And I tell you what, if his first day is going against Myles Garrett, the number 1 player in the NFL, boy, I hope Monroe Freeling's got a tough spirit and can handle what Myles is going to do to him on day 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I do hear the Browns do like Proctor a lot. I have heard that. And I think it's the same kind of argument for the second and third pick, Arvell Reese and David Bailey. That Reese has a higher ceiling. David Bailey's more kind of like ready to go now. So I do think it's almost the same argument there. But it's also tough too. Like you said, I do think Monroe Freeling and Proctor don't really fit in at 6. And I do think it's an opportunity to look at a trade down. And it's a possibility that happens. It's just, you always have that kind of like, going too far, is that player still going to be available? Someone going to trade up in front of me? That sort of thing. Now, when I always hear about reaches and stuff like that, when you talk about the draft, and sometimes you just have to take a player when you can take a player. If you want that player on your team, if you have a special feeling about him, yeah, maybe will be available in 5 more picks, and you can't drop down 5 more picks. Sometimes I do think that's something that you sometimes have to do. I will say that I do sometimes think that if there's a player you like and a player you love, you just sometimes have to. Well, this is a little bit of a reach at this, but you still have to take it. I still think that's something that
right.
You have
no,
to
there's no question. If there's a guy that you love, that you're in love with, you do what it takes to get that guy, right? But we are the Cleveland Browns, and we have many holes to fill because of previous decisions. We don't need to go there. We've got 3 picks in the first 40, right? I think we can agree those should all be starters. Our glaring needs are offensive line and wide receiver. So it makes sense that we would go there, right? But when you were talking about those defensive players, does Reese go before Junior, before this, that, the other thing? I agree. We're not quite sure how the draft will fall. But at the end of the day, I would like the Cleveland Browns to come out with their first 3 picks with an offensive lineman that we feel good about, and at least 1 wide receiver that we feel good about. And here's the third part, right? And in Mel Kiper's mock 4.0, he had a Browns trade, and they had 3 first-rounders, but no second-rounders. And they got a left tackle, they got a wide receiver, and they got a cornerback from the first round. From what I understand, there's 2 cornerbacks that are expected to go in the first round. Now, of course, I love Denzel Ward. You know that. I have no problem with Campbell. He seemed to be doing pretty well. But Gomes, what do you think about a left tackle, a wide receiver, and one of the top 2 cornerbacks before we're even done with the first round, right? Opposite Denzel Ward. Again, love you, Denzel Ward, right? There's concussion situations. And there's always depth, right? I'm sure you're with me when I say no NFL team can have enough cornerbacks or offensive linemen, for that matter. Gomes, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that you do come in a position in the draft where maybe the player say you want to fill a position, but that player is just, there's so many players in front of them, or maybe this cornerback is just going to make that much big of a difference on your team. I do think you have to take them. Because like you said, depth is never a bad thing, right? Especially as I've heard something about a defensive lineman, defensive tackle. I don't know exactly who, but I've heard even kind of rumblings about that, and that's huge because those guys will they rotate in and out all the time. So you can't have enough defensive tackles, defensive linemen to kind of fit, and so depth is huge when it comes to that. So I think that's a possibility. And yeah, I do think that if there's a player that you come to that you think is a dude in that position or in that pick, I do think you have to take him.
So who would that be? Who? Obviously, we need offense. There's no question about it. But this draft is heavy in defense. You talked about Reese. You talked about Bailey Jr. Right, and don't forget the stud running back from Notre Dame, Love, who I like. But give me a break, man. We just got Judkins, but he's hurt. Right? Would it be cool to have Judkins and Love? Is that insane to think about Love, a running back, if he's that big of a stud? Right? Or do we go, boy, wouldn't you love a linebacker?
That's where I was
with
going.
Carson Schlesinger.
I was going Sonny Styles because in my draft I have Sonny Styles still available at 6. So I think that like having him at 6, that might be something. I've always wanted that, that like linebacker, that Clay Matthews, guy. And Schlesinger may be that guy, but if you can't have too many, right? You can do like the well, they had the Clay Matthews and AJ Hawk up in Green Bay, which I think that was a good combo for a few years. So you can never have enough good linebackers. That's for sure.
Especially in the AFC North, right? Because let's remember, folks, November, December, January, you can have the best quarterback and the best wide receiver, right? Joe Burrow, Chase, Aaron Rodgers, and any good wide receiver, right? But you got to run the ball, right, Gone?
Right. Absolutely.
And the linebackers will stop that. Remember the big difference between Bush, who came from that school up north, and Williams, who we just got. Williams is more of a pass coverage guy than Bush was. And again, Bush, you did a great job. Best of luck to you in your next career. But let's talk about the Browns today. We got Q Williams, who is more of a pass linebacker. Let's keep building up these linebackers. Let's keep building up the cornerbacks and show the NFL that doesn't matter how good your quarterback is, our defense can stop it. And hopefully, if nothing else, our offense can run the ball in little short drips to some tight ends. And if we got to beat you 7-3, we'll beat you 7-3 because our defense can do it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I do want to point out at least in my mock draft, I have in the first round a player from Toledo going in the first round. And that just makes me extremely proud. Former Rocket myself. To see a Toledo player in the first round. I hope that comes true. I hope he gets picked in the first round.
You must be talking about the safety.
Yeah. Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And where did he go in your mock draft?
I had him going 20 to the Cowboys. They need some secondary help back there, so I had him going there. But of course, there might be trades.
The Cowboys need help.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what I wanted to point out. Mel Kiper's mock draft 4.0 just came out a little while ago, and he has the Dallas Cowboys trading with the Cleveland Browns. Now, I want to reiterate what my friend Gomer just said, that there are other teams that are looking to trade down. Yes, absolutely. But the price might be a little too high. You see, everybody kind of knows the Browns really need a left tackle, and at number 6, that's too high. Everybody also knows that Browns need a wide receiver and that this draft is deep in wide receiver and, when you know it, offensive tackles. So for the Browns to go from their pick at 6 to Dallas's at 12, Dallas may get a dude, right, on defense, maybe Caleb Downs, right, number 6.
Yeah.
And we, the Browns, can still get our left tackle or a solid wide receiver at 12. And then the rest is just math, right? If we traded, we must have gotten something bonus. I think Mel Kiper's got that we get 3 first-rounders and we give up our second. Well, Gome, that's 3 first-rounders. And again, as mentioned before, he's got the way the chips fall, a left tackle, a wide receiver, and a stud cornerback. I think that would be great. But I'm with you, buddy. I don't like to really plan on trades. So my concern is the first pick. If we need a super left tackle and there's only 2 or 3, Freeling from Georgia, Proctor from Alabama, my friend, I'm not sure Freeling and Proctor are going to be there at 24. We know the Detroit
Right.
Lions need a left tackle. So in my mock drafts, whatever left tackle's there, Detroit's going to take, and Detroit picks before our 24.
Yeah,
So
I
at
have that too.
6, Proctor is a bit of a reach, but we need him, right? We need a left tackle. We need a Joe Thomas. And technically, Proctor is 6'7", 352 pounds. Put that behind Dwan Jones. I know, folks, Dwan Jones has been hurt a lot, but I challenge you to listen to the Daily Grossy, where Chops spoke to an insider who specifically said that Dwan Jones, our left tackle, who's been hurt, every year for 3 years, has been in Berea every day, is working out and getting healthier. So much to the point that they're saying Dwan Jones may be down to 350 pounds. So, Gome, what if I could give you the Cleveland Browns have 2 left tackles, both 6'7", both 355 pounds? Would that make you feel better about our depth at left tackle? And you know what? No, before you answer, let's go even one better. Proctor, right, being a rookie, could easily be moved into, dare I say, left guard. Now you got Dwan Jones, a veteran who figured out the health issue at left tackle, and the rookie stud, Caden Proctor, at left guard, who could move over to left tackle whenever Dwan Jones gets hurt. Go. I got to tell you, I like this idea, but I also love Monroe Freeling. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to. I would. I don't know. I would love to get an offensive tackle. I would be wary to get more than one, but I do think that offensive tackle, and like I said, if you have to reach for him, I think it's that big of a need for us at 6. I do think it's a need that will help us tremendously. So I do think that that's something that we should go for sure.
So we should go for left tackle pretty early. There's deep wide receivers. I think the real wild card is, what do you do with number 6? If you can trade it with Dallas, by all means, trade it with Dallas, because you need people that you can get at 12, at 20, and at 24.
Yeah, I think the best case scenario is if Caleb Downs is available at 6 and we're on the clock. I think that is the best case scenario, where I think Dallas is going to be licking their chops, and because you could be looking at the Vikings too, like hey, Dallas Vikings, they want to trade up, they want to get Caleb. What do you think? And so I think that could be a big deal, and I think that's hopefully a possibility. We'll see, but I think that's I would love for that to happen. And was it so next Thursday, right? This is when the draft starts.
Absolutely. Thursday is when it starts. And one more thing, we all know Dallas had a terrible defense, right? And we all know Dallas is outside the top 10. And what they're saying about this draft is the meat of the draft is between picks like 10 and 60, meaning Dallas is outside of the get a dude pick.
Yeah.
Dallas could get a dude if they traded with us, and we could get exactly what we want plus an additional pick this year, next year. It doesn't matter. We have holes to fill. So I think it'll be very, very interesting to see the top 5 picks and who's available for Dallas as we slowly contemplate. But I don't like to think that that's going to happen. I like to get down to the nitty gritty. Is it Monroe Freeling, Caden Proctor at 6? Because I don't want to risk them not being there at 24. Give me a Boston, give me a branch wide receiver at 24, and then give me best available at 39. But let's make sure we get a left tackle. In fact, you don't just have to get a left tackle, right? This is a deep offensive line class, whether it's guards or right tackle, right? And I am all for the Browns getting more than one offensive line in the first 3 or 4 of their picks. Absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. We got 4 offensive linemen, but number 1, they've never played together. Number 2, why were they available in the first place? Let's load up. Let's win in the trenches. That's AFC football. Win in the trenches, pound and ground. We're going to win it in the fourth quarter. I like that pick, but lots of choices. I don't think I could be really mad if they got a defensive dude at number 6, if they can still get a lineman and wide receiver before the draft is over. So overall, Gomes, that's what I'm looking at. Can we get out of this draft with some offensive linemen we feel and wide receivers we feel good about? Right? Isn't that what we want out of the first, maybe even second round? Right? We leave the first round with our starting left tackle and our number 1 wide receiver. Whoever it is doesn't matter. If we can do that out of the first round, I think Browns fans will be happy.
Now, let me ask you this. This is a question I want to pose to you, especially about this draft, because we talk about the trades, right? How we might be trading down. Now, what would be more important to you in this draft? If we trade, would we want to get a trade where we can get extra picks in this draft, maybe an extra second round pick, or Dallas has 2 first round picks. Do we get both of them, trade one of our first round picks, whatever? Do we take one of their first round draft picks this year? Or do we ask for a first round pick next year when everyone's talking about how the quarterback class is so great, or just overall player depth is going to be much better in 2027? What do you think is more important, or what would be great to get?
Well, that's a great question. And I think, when you look at all the variables, it's a clear answer. If Dallas would give us their 2027 first round, done and done. Sign it. Get it. Right? Because everybody believes that it isn't just quarterbacks in 2027, to your point, that it is just heavily, heavily filled with talent. And one more thing I'd like to point out to you and our viewers at home. Remember, Dallas Cowboys just gave up not the best defensive guy, Micah Parsons, right? Because we know the number 1 defensive guy is Myles Garrett. But my point is, Dallas just gave up one of the best defensive guys. They need defensive bad. It's hard for me to imagine that a team that needs so much help on defense would give up both first round picks this year just to go up to number 6, even though they need a dude. So as much as I would like to see the Cowboys give the Browns picks 12 and 20 for the Browns giving 6 and 39, that would give the Browns 3 first round draft picks in this year, and we wouldn't have a second round draft pick. I think that's the most realistic scenario, right, that could happen. And I don't think that's realistic because of Micah Parsons, what that did. They need to fill holes. Yes, they did good with the defensive tackle that they got, but they've got a lot of needs. So it just seems to me that they wouldn't give up another first round pick, especially in 2027, for just to move up to 6. I would love for it to happen. Ideally, yes. Give me next year's Dallas first for the 6, and give me Dallas's 12. That would be ideal. But I don't think that's going to happen. But we have so many holes to fill, it doesn't matter. In this draft, 2026, no matter what anybody says, is deep with offensive linemen and wide receivers. And we need them. So get more offensive linemen in 4th or 5th round. Give them a year to develop because we need more offensive linemen. Right? And we need wide receivers. So I'm sorry, long story short, right? If we can get a 2027, done. Do it. But I just not sure that's what's going to happen. And I'm not really that optimistic that the Dallas will trade both first rounders for our 6 and our 39. But if they love a defensive guy, Sonny Styles is supposed to be incredibly versatile, right? And Downs from Ohio State, they're considering one of the best safeties since, Ed Reed or Kyle Hamilton, who's currently on the field. And you got the 39 pick. So I could see Dallas, right, getting that stud from Ohio State, whether it's Reese, linebacker, or Caleb Downs, the safety, and then getting an edge rusher at 39. Cowboys fans, how excited would they be for Caleb Downs and maybe the number 4 or 5 edge rusher at 39? And you still got rounds 3 and above to go.
Yeah. And one thing I would love to see, I mean, and again, I don't know if this is possible, but if they can swap, they're both first round picks. So then we pick 20 and they pick 24, right? Yeah. And we swap all of our picks. I think that might be something too. I don't know if that's possible, but I think that's something to keep an eye out for.
No, I hear you, because because then Dallas would still have 2 first round picks, right? And that's what that satisfies them. But here's my caveat to that, because of course I've thought about that. You want to give up number 6 for a 12 just to move up from 24 to 20? I don't. I'm not moving up from 12 to 6 unless, and I'm only getting 4 moves up from 24 to 20 in this year's draft. No.
Well, if that
Number 6,
happen, I would ask for something else.
Number 12, no dude.
If that happens, I would ask for. If that happens, I would ask for something else, like maybe a second round or third round pick. I would ask for. There would be other additional things happening. I would ask for a little. Then I
apologize. Yeah, well, that I could see that. What you're saying, our 6 and 24 for their 12 and 20, plus a next year's second round. Let's not go crazy and say it would be a first. Yeah, but give the Browns 2 second rounders. That's enough to move back up into the first round.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think really 2027, you got to be careful, because the Jets are going to have 3 first rounders, right? And you never want to play for the next year's quarterback class. We thought 2026 was going to be great. We have a clear number 1, Mendoza, but number 2, Ty Simpson from Alabama, has only played 1 year. In his second year, he got hurt and he was playing rough. No way should the Browns pick Ty Simpson at 6, at 24, or 39. You got Shador. Put some weapons around him. You want to see what a rookie quarterback can do? Get him a wide receiver, like Carson Tate from Ohio State. Fix up that offensive line. Not just left tackle, but maybe a guard, right? That guard from Pennsylvania is supposed to be or Penn State, supposed to be a stud.
Yeah.
Hopefully he doesn't go to Pittsburgh. But there's holes to fill, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I'm so excited. I can't wait for next Thursday to come around. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch, especially because we have 2 picks. We'll have the 6th pick, and I'll keep watching. I mean, I usually watch it all anyways, but I'll still be tuned in, waiting for the 24 pick to come by. So I'm excited about that. That's this upcoming Thursday. So we'll be talking about I don't know if we'll talk about that next time. We have another show before that. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll talk about what the draft results are and how they impact the Browns next time it comes around. Do you have any final thoughts for the fans out there?
Just that I think the draft is going to be exciting for multiple ways, right? We mentioned Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs as being a stud, but Jeremiah Love, the running back, is now considered one of the second best talents in the entire NFL draft. And Washington picks right behind us. So Washington with a stud running back, Chicago Bears maybe want a stud running back. We just talked about Dallas wanting defensive guys. It's interesting to see how picks 2 through 5 will play out, because it will drastically affect how the Browns move forward. And is it going to be a wide receiver at 6? Is it going to be a left tackle? Is it going to be a trade? So we get more. I think it's going to be very interesting, and we don't know what's going to happen. So stay tuned and have your liquid libations ready for you, Cleveland.
And I do have, I think my over under for Ohio State players taking the first round is 4.5. So I don't know if you want to go. I'm personally on the over. Easy. I have it at 5. So that'll be interesting. Again, another thing to watch during the draft, how many Ohio State players go. I can't wait. That's next Thursday. But we'll talk about that later. That is the professor. I'm Gomer. Thank you again for joining us. If you ever want to reach out to us, happyhourinthelane@gmail.com. Like, follow, subscribe, wherever you're listening, so you can come back and hear about what happens in the draft, and we can follow up on that. So again, thank you, Professor. Thank you. I'll see you guys later. See ya.
Thank you, my friend. Always a good time. We'll see you next time.